Begin the current Daf Masech Shabbos Daf Mem Aleph. We continue with a similar story, which Rabbi Zera that he saw something by Rebbe Vo. Ashir's co-sponsor B'Kalzech and Cheskel, Torah Anytime, and Daf Chaim. We appreciate whoever's joining us live on Zoom. So what we're going to speak in today's Daf is continuing on this theme about bathing, two stories of Amiram relating to bathing and different halachas relating to bathing. Additionally, one of the Mishnayos I've been discussing regarding drinking on Shabbos from hot water utensils that had their coals removed, but as we see in the picture over here, as we'll see in the Daf, it depends on what type of vessel it is regarding if it's going to be problematic to drink from that hot water on Shabbos or not. Additionally, we're going to be discussing very common practice that putting cold water into a hot kalim, what's the halacha? You have a hot coffee, you have some type of a hot vessel. What's the halacha about putting cold water into the hot vessel? Additionally, what we've mentioned many times so far is this concept known as hatmana. Insulating is a rabbinic decree. It's prohibited. On Erev Shabbos, you're not allowed to have it insulated in a davar hamoisav havel, in something that adds heat, and that's going to be relevant for the halachas that are going to come up in this daf. Additionally, as we mentioned in the previous daf, which is one of the well-known halachas of Bishlan on Shabbos, is Kli Rishon. Kli Rishon is the primary vessel that was on the fire. So even when it's removed from the fire, it still has the ability to cook. It's still going to be concerned about Bishlan. A Kli Sheni loses the ability to cook. What's a Kli Sheni? Kli Sheni is you had the pot on the fire, then that pot was poured into a second pot. That is called a Kli Sheni. That is generally not a problem about Bishul. Another halacha that's going to come up is what's known as mitzaref. Mitzaref is when you heat up a pot, so it's a way of finishing the pot, but it gets weakened. When you then pour in cold water, that then consolidates it. That's prohibited because of makah b'patish. Makah b'patish is the malacha that you finished off the thing, you perfected something. That's because of makah b'patish. That's a problem about mitzaref. Now, related to that, we'll see in the Gemara's discussion on Beis that a davar she'ein miskaven, one of the classic Talmudic disputes between Reb Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda, is an action that inadvertently leads to a malacha. It's not intended, but inadvertently it leads to that. Shimon holds that's mutter, Rabbi Yehuda holds that's awesome. So we begin the Gemara. Again, it's another story the previous stuff spoke about regarding when he was in the bathtub. Reb Zera saw Reb Avo in the bathtub. He wasn't sure, did he lift up his legs? Did he not lift up his legs? Was it a problem about swimming? Was it not a problem about swimming? Is it like the halacha of not swimming in the river? Is it not? So now the Gemara continues with another similar story. Ba'amr Reb Zera. Again, Reb Zera says, Ano chazit Reb Avo. Again, he says he saw Reb Avo doing something, and again, he didn't know exactly what he did to know what the halacha is. Because he says, I saw Sheniach Yadav. He says, I saw when he was bathing, because of modesty, he placed his hands connected Panav Shalmata, opposite the lower face region of the person, meaning referring to his genital area. He was putting his hand by his private parts. Now, he says, V'lo yadanam, he says, I don't know, Inaga, did he touch the male member? Iloi naga, or if he didn't touch. I saw he had his hands there, he was undressed, and he was bathing himself. I don't know if he touched it or not. Says the Gemara, Pshita loy naga. Of course he didn't touch the male member. The Tanya in the Brisa, Rabbi Eliezer, he says in this halacha lemaisa, kala oiches ba'amam. Whoever touches his male member with mashtin and he urinates, kilo maybe mabaloilim. It's as if he brought the flood to the world, meaning referring to the mabal and days of Noach. Because what happened is if a person holds onto his male member, it heats him up, it makes him aroused, and he comes to carry to seminal emission. This was the destruction of the Mabul, where they would emit semen in vain. As the pasuk says, "Ki hishkas kol basar," as Darka says, "Bereishis vav." They perverted their flesh, which was they were mitzi zer levatala. So, so in halacha it depends if a person married or single. But the halacha is in general, if someone's just bathing, of course not going to touch the male member. What's his doubt? He's not sure if he touched it or not. So Mabai says, no, you're right. Although generally a person is never supposed to touch the male member, but a suah, they made for the story of Avo kivayleshes. Vayleshes is from the word, as we find the Targum in Bereshis Memdal Beichapes, that they were looking, is uvolash, which is referring to when the soldiers come to the city. Why do they call the troops the Vayleshes? Because since they seek and they check and they plunder everything in the city, so therefore the troops are called Vayleshes. So what halacha do troops have to do with someone touching the male member when he's swimming? So the Gemara explains, it's not like learn the Mishnah Masech Zavoi Dezar. The halach is Bailesha Shenechnes Al'ir, when these troops come into the city, where they plunder everything and they look at everything, they pick everything up. So it depends. If it's b'shas shalom, if it's during peaceful times, for example, what are troops doing in the city if it's peaceful time, it means from that government, from that kingdom. So then the halacha is as follows. Chavias pesuches, the open barrels of wine, are asuras. A Jew's wine is going to be forbidden because we're concerned because the troops come and no one's stopping troops, and they're going to take the wine, and we're concerned that they did yayin nesach, that they went and poured libations of the wine for idolatry, so therefore the wine's going to be forbidden. So two mice mutaris. But if they're sealed, they're permitted. We're not concerned that they open it and then they're closing it. If a soldier is taking it, he's just taking it, he's not closing it. So if it's closed, it's permitted. But b'shas no chama, if at a time of war, elu mutaris, even the open barrels are permitted. Why? During a wartime, there's no time to go ahead and do libations. The guy's busy. Like Ramchal says, this world is like, you have to be like a ben chai, like a soldier. You have no time to pity-patty, do different type of things. You're busy. You're fighting a war. So therefore, there's no problem about even the open barrels. So says the Gemara, Alma, so we see, even the Ve'isi, since the soldier is afraid, it's wartime, there's a sniper that might shoot him in the back of his head. So Leimenaschi. So he's not going to pour wine libation, and therefore the open barrels of wine are permitted. Even Deva'os, since Rebbe Vo, when he's bathing, is afraid, the whole problem about touching the male member is because it might arouse a person. That's only if he might come to think illicit thoughts and thus arouse himself. But here, even if he would touch, wouldn't be a problem because he's afraid. You're not going to come to do something that's a sensual activity. You're not going to come to do some type of like nisach hayayin, to do the yayin nesach, because you're busy. You're afraid. You're not in that state of mind. Says Gemara, what do you mean? When you're bathing, what's the fear that you're saying it's like the equivalent of halacha by leshes? Says Gemara, b'yisusa de nahara, the fear of drowning. So when he's going into the water, although yes, he's covering his private parts, and maybe he did touch, but why it's a problem about touching because of here? No, because he's afraid. What's the fear? It's the fear of drowning in the river, and therefore there's not going to be a problem about. That's why he was in doubt. Maybe he did touch. So that's one problem that we said that. Yeah, if you hold on to your male member, it's like you brought a marble. So that we said doesn't apply where there's an element of fear. Okay, but then the Gemara has a different question. Is that really so that he covered it? Forget about that if he touched. How could you say he covered his private parts? If someone puts his hands opposite the lower region by a genital area, it's as if he denied in the covenant of of the bris milah. It looks like he's embarrassed. What are you embarrassed from? What are you covering over? This is a beautiful thing. This is the covenant you have with God. So the Gemara, it's not difficult. Why not? When did we just say in that teaching that it's prohibited to cover it up? Is kinachis. When someone's going down to the river, so his genital area is facing the river. So there's no modesty because no one sees anyway. It's just him and God. So you're not allowed to cover it up because what are you embarrassed of? When did we say it's permitted in that what Rebbe Vo was doing was kisaluk, when he was coming out of the river and then he's facing all the people on the beach, then it's permitted because of modesty. So therefore, that's that we said this, that it's kilu kaiv b'Yisrael. It's only on the way into the river when you have your back to others. But when you're on your way up, then that's permitted. As the Gemara actually brings different customs that we find that the Amiram, what did they do? Ki had the Rava, he was shachi. He would bend over because of modesty. Reb Zera, he would zakuf, he would walk straight up because he was concerned for the teaching of Rab that it shouldn't look like as if he's denying the Brit Yisrael Avinu. What did it be embarrassed of? To the contrary, this is a beautiful covenant between man and God. Now, Rabban Debei Ravashi, as we mentioned before, they did some type of a compromise. These rabbis from the yeshiva of Ravashi. Keika Nachsi, when they would be going down to the Rebbe Zakva, they would stand straight up because there's no tznius, no one sees, and they're very proud of their bris milah. Kika Salki, when they would be coming up and people could see, then Shachi, then they would bend over as a way of modesty regarding other people. Now, related to this, the Gemara brings that Reb Zera, who we were saying over the teachings from him, so we say another teaching related to these concepts that we were saying in the previous dafim about bathing. Have a kamishtamim with Rabbi Yehuda. He was avoiding Rabbi Yehuda. He was afraid that if he's going to see him, that it's like going to be a problem for Reb Zera because the Boila made Silar Yisrael. Reb Zera wanted to go make Aliyah. He wanted to go up to Eretz Yisrael, and Rabbi Yehuda didn't hold that you're allowed to go up. So he was concerned that he's going to say, I forbid you from going up to Eretz Yisrael. So he was avoiding him. Why? Because Rabbi Yehuda said, whoever goes up from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, he violates a Pasuk commandment. What? To go make Aliyah? Yes, Shanam, like it says the Pasuk in Yirmiyah. The Pasuk says, Bavelu Yavo, that to Babel you're going to go, V'shama you, and there you're going to be, like the Pasuk says, Ad Yom Pakti, until the day that I remember you and they take you back up, which Hashem has not done yet. So then Rabbi Yehuda says you're not allowed to go up and make aliyah. Rabbi Zera would tell you that no, that pasuk is talking about the klisharis, as the Gemara says in Ksubas Daf Kaf Manav. That's not going to come back until Hashem remembers us and build the base of Migdash Hashlishi, Meher Yimei No Mein. But that was Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore he was avoiding him. But Amma, he said that Ezel ve'eshma minei milsa. Let me go and hear one last teaching from him. Ve'esi ve'esik. Then I'll come and I'll go up to Eretz Yisrael. Azal ashkechei dekoi bebani. So he came to him when he was coming to here. He found him in the bathhouse. But Kamalei l'shamei, and he was telling his bathhouse and his attendant. He told him the following thing. He says, "Hiviu li neser." He said, "Bring me the neser, which is a type of a mineral which they would use to wash their head." And he said it to him in Lashon HaKodesh, in the holy language. Hiviuli mistrik, he said, "Bring me a comb." Now, this was in Lashon HaKodesh. From here on, he said it in the Aramaic words, because he wanted the people who would hear him to understand, because these are things that people need for their daily living. He said the following things. He says, "Pischu pamaychu." Open up your mouth and let the steam of the bathhouse enter into your body, and thereby vapiku havla. It'll remove the steam inside your body, which is the sweat. Moreover, ve'ishtu mimai de bebani. You should drink from the water of the bathhouse. Mean to say, you should drink warm water, even if it's only heated up for bathing purposes. You should still drink the hot water. And Amr Reb Zera said when he heard this, he says, "Oh, mali basi el shmer de bazeh." Had I only come just to hear this, dayai, it would be sufficient. So the Gemara wonders, what was this great teachings that he heard that he's so excited about? Bishlam hiviyu neser. I could understand this that Rabbi Yehuda had said. Bring this shampoo. Hiviyu master. Bring the comb. Kamash Milan, what you were learning from Yehuda was that Dvarim Shel Chayil, that mundane matters, like bringing a comb or shampoo, Mutla Amram, you let us say in the bathhouse, even B'Lashon HaKodesh, even in the holy tongue. I mean, even though it's Lashon HaKodesh, a Sefer Torah is written with these words, still, for mundane matters, you're allowed to use Lashon HaKodesh. Okay, that's a Chiddush of Halacha. Also, I could understand Pischu P'Maichu V'Apiku Havla. This that Rabbi Yehuda said, open up your mouth, let the steam of the bathhouse enter into your body. So that removes your own inner steam, which is your sweat. Nami also, that's an important halacha. Because Shmuel said, havla, the steam of a bathhouse that goes in through the mouth, mapik havla. Actually, for corona, I think they've said that people that had these symptoms, they actually said that you should do that. From some PT or something, I got one of these text messages. Go into a hot bath, hot shower, let it come into your body, and you see in the Gemara that removes the heat, the steam that you have inside your body. So okay, that's an important halacha. But drink the water of the bathhouse. My mal yusa. What's the benefit of drinking hot water when you're going to take a bath? Says the Gemara, the time like learn the brisa, and that's what we see over here. These are the teachings that he had learned from him. One that's mutter to speak mundane things in Lashon HaKodesh in the bathhouse. Inhaling hot steam helps the body sweat out its own heat. And this third thing is the effect of bathing is the best. And this is what we're teaching in this last halach. If a person also drinks hot water, which that relates to the teaching of a brisa, which is going to mention this thing. What's the benefit of drinking hot water when you're taking a hot bath? The Tanakh learned the brisa. The brisa says many different teachings. Achel v'lo yishasa. If someone eats and doesn't drink, achelase dam. His eating is blood. And this is the beginning of intestinal illnesses. If a person's eating, as the Gemara elsewhere says, you should also drink. So you should drink after eating to avoid stomach illness. Second teaching, if someone ate and he didn't walk 4 amas before he went to sleep, so his food rots, meaning it doesn't properly digest to be removed through the excretory system. That's the beginning of bad breath. So I think there's a famous story of Moshe Feinstein that he was very makbid after he ate, not to fall asleep in his chair, but to walk this halacha, to walk dalat amas after eating to avoid bad breath. Moreover, says the Bryce, someone has to move his bowels. He has to go to the bathroom, and still he eats. It's compared to like an oven, which you're heating up on the old ashes. Meaning, you first clear out the old ashes. You're cooking new food. Take out the old ashes. That's the same thing. You got to go to the bathroom. First, remove the old before you put in the new. And that's the beginning of where a person's whole body becomes so sweaty and smelly because he doesn't go to the bathroom before he starts eating. So that's why if one eats when he needs to relieve himself, it can cause excessive perspiration. Rochatz bechamen, and this is the halacha that we had mentioned while we bring in this brisa, which was another halacha he was learning from Rabbi Yehuda. If someone is bathing himself with hot water, and he didn't drink from it, this is compared to an oven which you're heating up on the outside, but it's not heating up on the inside, which that doesn't help at all, because in Talmudic times the oven was heated up on the inside, and if you're heating up on the outside, that's not going to be so great. So that's the same idea where if you're heating yourself up on the outside, but where's that teaching? If you're heating yourself with the outside, you want to also heat yourself up on the inside. That was the teaching. That was actually the primary teaching why we brought in this brisa, where because or else it's no good. So that's why he said that when you're in the bathhouse, also drink the hot waters of the bathhouse, because you also want to heat yourself inside, not just on the outside. Another teaching that the brisa teaches us is rachetz b'cham. If someone heats himself up with hot water, and he doesn't rinse himself off with cold water, so daim lebarzlik, it could be compared to iron, shechnisu le'ur, which was put into the fire, but then they don't subsequently put it into cold water, which actually, interestingly, we're going to mention very shortly, that strengthens the iron. When you heat it up, you have to go ahead and then put it into cold afterwards. That's the same thing. After a person takes a bathe with hot water, he should rinse himself with cold water. That strengthens the person. And finally, rachatz b'lo yisach. If someone takes a bath and he doesn't anoint himself with oil, then he's compared to when you put water on top of a barrel, meaning on the sides and on the bottom where it doesn't go into the inside. So too, if someone does not anoint himself with oil, which actually for Rashi means it's talking about before the bath, Taisa says it's after the bath, but be that as it may, if you want to maximize the effect of a bath, you anoint one's body with oil. That's some of the teachings that we learned in the Brisa, which we brought in because of the story of Reb Zera, where that's also, we said, so what's the chiddush in that one? Yeah, that's an important halacha, that also when the person heats his body up on the outside of the bath, he's supposed to heat up the inside of his body when he drinks the hot water. Now we continue with the next Mishnah, which continues on the halachas of gar for katan, which that was the theme of opening up this parak. We spoke about akira and the tanner and the kupach, which you heat up with the coals, and you have to go ahead and shovel it out if you want to do either pasal shiur or chazara. So essentially, usually, tanner we said gar for kutum, it doesn't work, or kupach also does not work. So here we continue with a similar thing regarding what does gar for katan help? When you shovel out the coals, it's not always going to work like with Tanner and Kupach. So here in the Mishnah, we have two different similar types of vessels that actually is going to depend. The halacha is going to differ. So the first one we mentioned is the mulyar. What's a mulyar? The Gemara is going to explain actually, some machlekes rishayim, we go with Rashi always, that a mulyar is when you have water on the inside and you have the coals on the outside. So you have a receptacle, a small little receptacle over here on the outside by the outer wall that's attached to it, and they put coals over there, and the water is in the big vessel. This is a pretty good picture over here. You have, this is the vessel where you put the water, and here you have something that's attached on the outside that you put in the hot coals, so that heats it up. That's like you got that battery pack over there. It's even like off the fire. You got the hot coals in over here with it. It heats it up. So on that says the Mishnah, regarding the mulyar hagaruv, you shoveled out the coals from before Shabbos. So then you could drink from its waters b'Shabbos on Shabbos, because although it's still a little bit hot because of the vessel, but since it's not going to increase the heat, it's just going to maintain the heat, that it shouldn't cool off, so that's okay. It's not b'davar ha'moitzav havel, so then you could go ahead and drink this water on Shabbos. Now, here we come to the second case. Antichi, which the Gemara actually is going to have a machlokes what antichi actually is, but be that as it may, whichever one the Gemara is going to say, it actually increases heat even after you took out the coals. It's going to be moitzav havel even if you took out the coals. So here the Gemara Mishnah says, Ava pisha gufa, even though you took out the coals, doesn't make a difference. Ein shleisim, and you cannot drink from that water on Shabbos. So the Gemara says, Heichadami mulyar hagarf, which first I'm going to say to take out the word hagarf. The primary thing is, what's the case of the mulyar? What is a mulyar? Which we said, if you take out the coals, then it's permitted to drink from it on Shabbos. So tell me in the Brisa, what's mulyar? As we explained, mayim mebifnim, you have the water in the inner vessel, as we had that picture, and we have and you have the coals on the outside. So that's not so hot. If you take out the coals, it's not going to be moitzav havel before Shabbos, therefore it's going to be permitted. Antichi, that's a machlekes. Rabbi Amar, he says, you know what it is? It's a bay kiwi. Its bay is like this. There's two kiwis, meaning to say that it looks very similar to the mulyar. In case you're following, this is the mulyar, and this is according to Rabbi the bay kiwi. So yes, there's a hole in the inside, and near it there's coals on the outside, and the water is put into this halal. Now, although isn't that the same as mulyur? You're telling me that antichi is forbidden even if you take out the coals, and mulyur is permitted. The difference is that by the beit kiwi, the walls are thick, and the fire is constantly burning on it all through the weekday. So therefore, the walls are very hot. As we mentioned in previous daf, that important tases regarding kli shein and kli rishon, the heat of the walls is very important regarding increasing heat. So therefore, it's going to increase the heat in the water even though you took out the coals from before Shabbos. So therefore, Rabbah says the case of antichi that's forbidden is this bei kiwi. Now, Rav Nachman ben Yitzchak, he gives a different interpretation. He says, you know what this antichi is? It's bei dudi, which is a two-tiered pot, which means it's a large pot that you make two bottoms, and you put the coals between the two bottoms, and the water is on the upper part. That is something that has heat even if you take out the coals from before Shabbos. It's still very hot. And therefore, that's going to be the case, even if the coals are swept out, that's going to be prohibited to drink from that water on Shabbos. So the Gemara explains that Mandama Bei Dudi, according to Rav Nachman ben Yitzchak, that he says this is the case that's Aser, so Kol Sheken Bei Kiwi. For sure, the case of Rabbah that he describes is going to be Aser, because since the fire is on this all week, and the walls are very thick, so for sure it's going to heat up the water on Shabbos, and therefore it's going to be forbidden to drink from it on Shabbos. But according to Rabbah, that says only this case is Aser. But regarding this case of Nachman Yitzchak, actually, loy, he would say it wouldn't be forbidden, because interestingly, although this one looks like mulyur, but actually this one is more like mulyur, because it's not really so hot like this one, because this one is very thick walls, and is heat up all week. So actually, Rabbah would say that only this case would be forbidden, and this case actually would be permitted if you shoveled out the coals from before Shabbos. Now, says the Gemara, Tanya Kava say, the Rav Nachman. We actually have a brayso that says, like Rav Nachman, that this is the case that's forbidden. Even though it's less heat than this one, this is the antichi that's forbidden. Why? Because the brayso says antichi, what's antichi? We're going to prove like Rav Nachman Yitzchak, even though you shoveled out the coals and you cover with ashes, ain't sheisam, you cannot drink from it. Why? Which the primary interpretation of Rashi says nechushta means the bottom, because the bottom is machamamasa and heats it up. Wait a second, which is the one that the bottom heats it up, not the sides? It's the beidudi, which has two bottoms, and that's the way the coals are, even though it's shoveled out, it's the bottom that heats it up, and therefore that's why you see like Rav Nachman Yitzchak, that this is the case that's forbidden. Rashi says, so wait a second, so why is antichi any different than mulyur? They both don't have that much heat. So here also by mulyur, when you shovel out the coals, why is it any different than this, that you shovel out the coals that this is aser? Because since here the bottom is concealed, so the heat really is more, it's insulated more. So even when you shovel out the coals, the heat is still going to be more intense than mulyur. So yeah, mulyur is going to be permitted, but antichi, which with the Gemara proves like Rav Nachman ben Yitzchak, and for sure this case, are going to be aser even if you swept out the coals from before Shabbos. Now we continue with the next Mishnah. The Mishnah continues on bishul, even on what's called a kli sheni, or possibly meaning regarding a kli rishon, which even when it was taken off from the fire. So the Mishnah says as follows: Hamechem is a hot water kettle, shepinohu, which was removed. Now this whole Mishnah, the Gemara is going to explain what exactly is the case that we're talking about. What was removed from what? But when you have the hot water kettle that was removed, so I'll put cold water into the hot water kettle, that should get heated up, because that's going to be bishul for the cold water. But you could put into the hot water kettle, or into a cup of hot water, shiur, if it's just to warm it up, but not to heat it up. That's what the halacha of the Mishnah says. Now it says the Gemara, kama. What exactly is the Mishnah saying? When you're saying pinahu, what was removed? Additionally, when it says lo yitin, you're not allowed to put it in, and then you says, but you could put it in, which is lav shirin. What exactly is the Mishnah saying? So we have a machlekes. Amar Ravad Masna says halchim, and this is what the Mishnah is saying. This is halacha lemaisa. Hamechim shepino mimenu mayim chamen. If you have the hot water kettle that was emptied out from the hot water that's inside of it, so you had a hot water kettle, it was burning on the fire. You took it off and you emptied out the hot water from it. On that, the halacha is saying, you're not allowed to put in a little bit of water into the hot water kettle, because what would that do? If you put a little water into a hot pot, it's going to heat it up. That's a kli rishon, even though it's not on the fire itself. This is what we said previously in the introduction, in the previous stuff. Kli rishon, even not on the fire, could still cook. So if you emptied out its contents, it's a hot pot. If you put in just a little bit of water, that's going to heat it up. That's bishul, you're cooking the water, that's forbidden. What you could do is you could put in a lot of water. If you put a lot of water into the hot pot, it's too much water. It's not going to cook it. And therefore, that's permitted. That's what the Gemara says. That's Rav Abba says is what the Mishnah is saying. As we continue to the basis, the Gemara V'aloy mitzaref, you got a different problem. Okay, forget about bishul. When you put in a little bit of water, that's bishul. Put a lot of water, that's not bishul because it's too much water. It's not going to cook it. But there's a different problem. When you have a metal vessel that's hot, when you put in cold water after you heat it up, that strengthens the vessel. That's makeh bepatish, because you're finishing off the work that the smiths do when they make a vessel, because when you heat up on the fire, it bubbles it up, and it's very close to breaking. When you put in the cold water, that strengthens it from breaking. That's makeh bepatish, so that itself should make it forbidden. Why are you saying when you put in a lot of water, it's permitted? Yeah, great, there's no bishul, but do you have a problem about mitzaref of makeh bepatish? Says Rabbi Shimon, he's going like Rabbi Shimon. That he says, the Talmud of Mishnah like Rabbi Shimon, that he says, davish ein miskaven, something that is not intended is mutter. When I'm putting in this cold water, I'm not making a pot or a kettle over here. I'm just trying to get my water cooled down a little, warmed up a little bit. So therefore, there's no problem about bishul, like we said, because there's a lot of water. And I am going to be mitzaref. It's not inevitable. And even if it's going to happen, it's a davish ein miskaven, which is going to be mutter. Now, maskul Abaye, but Abaye doesn't like this interpretation. He says, "Midi meichem shepinu mimenu mayim katani." Those are not the words of the Mishnah. Does it say in the Mishnah that the hot water kettle, that you remove the hot water from it? No, meichem shepinohu katani. The words of the Mishnah were a hot water kettle that you removed it, which sounds like you removed the kettle from the fire, not the water from the kettle, which Taisa discusses. Although we find sometimes the word pino could be removing the contents from it, but you shouldn't have said such a vague word which could have sounded otherwise. So therefore, rather, Elam Abaye, he gives a different interpretation. It says, again, the first interpretation was that it's not talking about removing the kettle from the fire, it's talking about removing the water from the kettle. Here, Abaye gives a different interpretation. He says, Hachikama, Hamechim Shepano. We're talking about if you didn't take the water out of the kettle, you removed the kettle from the fire, V'yesh b'mayim chamen, and it does have the hot water inside of it. That's what the Mishnah is coming to say. Really, it's the same halacha as we'll see. The difference is regarding the halacha of mitzaref, is the Mishnah like Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda. It says, you're not allowed to put in a little bit of water, because when you have a hot water, and this is very practical that people have a lot of times, you have in the Kli Rishon, a bunch of hot water. If you can add a little bit of cold water, guess what's going to happen? That little bit of cold water is going to get heated up. You're going to be mavashal, that little water. But you could put in a lot of cold water. What happens if you have a hot water? But you're pouring tons in cold water. It's not going to cook it because it's going to cool it down very quickly. That is what we're saying is going to be permitted. Now, but the case that Ada had described. But if, let's say, you had removed all the hot water from the kettle, then you're not allowed to put in any water whatsoever. Now, although the Teis Yisham says, the way Teis explains Rashi, that, as we'll see shortly, that mitzaref is only when you fill up the cold water all the way to the top. So he says take out the words kol ikr, but no, you can keep the words kol ikr. You're not allowed to put in any cold water at all. Why? Because when you're pouring a little bit of cold water, so that's going to be mavasalit. And when you're pouring in a lot of cold water to the top, that's going to be a problem with nation mitzaref, because you're going to be solidifying makeh patish on the hot kettle. Because Rabbi Yehuda, because the Mishnah is going like Rabbi Yehuda. Again, the only reason why Abaye disagrees is because the wording he says seems to indicate that it's hamechim shepinahu, not that you remove the water from the pot, but you remove the pot from the fire, and therefore that's what we're saying that it's like Rabbi Yehuda that he says davish ein miskaven also. Yes, because this would be prohibited, because although I'm not intending to be mitzaref, but that's like we see inferred from the halacha of the Mishnah, that if you removed all the water, then you wouldn't be able to put in even a lot of water, because that would be mitzaref, and even though you're not intending, but davish ein miskaven according to Rabbi Yehuda is going to be forbidden. Now, a similar type of machlekes, the Gemara brings that Amarav, which seems to be the same, at least initially, the same machlekes between what we had with Abaye and Rabbi Yosef regarding, and Rav Abba regarding, if we're saying the Mishnah is like Rabbi Yehuda, like Rabbi Shimon, regarding the mitzaref, So you have machlekes Rav and Shmuel. Rav says, Lo yishan, we didn't learn that it's permitted when you have a lot of water to go ahead and add the water. Ela lahafsher. Only if you're putting in a lot of water where you're coming to cool it off. Aval litzarif, and we're going to amend shortly what's Rav saying, but if let's say you remove all the hot water from the pot, and then it's going to be going ahead and being mitzaref the kli, because it's going to solidify it, because now you took out all the hot water and then the cold water then strengthens it. So then it's also, that's going to be forbidden, which that sounds like a baya, which going like a bihuda, that davish ein miskaven is also. Now Shmuel says, we don't have Shmuel here. Shmuel says, afilat tzaref nami mutter. He says that even to be mitzaref is going to be permitted, which sounds like the first interpretation of Rav Ada, that the Mishnah is going like Rabbi Shimon, which, yeah, okay, so I put in cold water and hot water was removed, but if I put in a lot of cold water, it's not going to cook it. It's going to be mitzaref. Okay, it's a davar she'ein miskaven, that's going to be permitted. And that says the Gemara, letzaref like a tchilah mishari. What do you think? You initially, according to Shmuel, Rabbi Shimon allowed to go ahead and be mitzaref, or Rabbi Shimon allows a davar she'ein miskaven? If my intention is to fill this up to the top with cold water to be mitzaref, even Rabbi Shimon agrees that it's forbidden. How could you say that Shmuel says, yeah, even letzaref, if you're doing it letzaref, it's permitted? So the Gemara amends the teaching to say like as follows. Amar Rav says Loishon, we didn't learn that when you remove it from the fire, that you're allowed to put in cold water. That's ela shiur lahafsher. That's only the amount of water that it would go ahead and only cool off to warm up the cold water, but not the amount of water. And this is important. This is what this slide is showing. Not the amount of water that would be mitzaref. Well, actually, this is Shmuel. We'll get to that in a second. But if you put in, if you put in a little amount of water, so that's problematic because you're going to heat up the cold water. If you pour in a lot of cold water, so that's okay because that's just going to warm it up. It's not going to heat it up. But aval shiur litzaref. But let's say you put in a measurement that could actually go ahead and you fill it up to the top. That could then go ahead and that's the new understanding that, as we mentioned in passing before, according to Rashi, that it only solidifies the kli. It's a problem patish only if you fill it up to the top with cold water. That's going to be usher because that's a problematic. Although that's not my intention, but davar she'ein miskaven is still going to be usher. So when does the Rav hold that you're allowed to go ahead and warm up the water but not heat it up? Is, for example, if you don't fill it up all the way to the top. Let's say you fill up the cold water, let's say 3/4 of the way. And according to this understanding, Rav understands the word pinehu, lamaskana, like Rav Ada, not the way we thought he's saying like Abaya. That it's talking about that you remove from it all the hot water. You remove all the hot water, so then that's what we're saying, a little bit of water you're allowed to add, a lot of cold water, a little water you're not allowed to add, because that's a problem bishul. A lot of cold water you're allowed to add, but all the way you're not allowed to. So essentially it's all empty, you emptied out the pot, then there's 3 stages. A little bit, no, because of bishul. A lot, yes, because no bishul. All the way, no, because of mitzaref, because even though you're not intending, but davar she'ein miskaven, he's saying like Yehuda, that's going to be aser. On that we say, Ushmuel Amei says, no, afilu shiur litzaref. Again, not that you're coming to be mitzaref, because even Rabbi Shimon would agree, and this is what we're mending from the first version. Even according to Rabbi Shimon, if you're going to be mitzaref, obviously that's aser, that's makabah patish. You can't do makabah patish according to Rabbi Shimon. It just means to say, according to Shmuel, if you filled it up all the way to the top, but that's not my intention, I want to warm up the water, which obviously is not going to get cooked when you have so much cold water. Then as you get into mutter, then it's going to be permitted because it's davar she'ein miskaven. You're not intending to be mitzaref, and therefore, although it might be mitzaref, but therefore it's going to be mutter. Some of the things we spoke about in today's daf, in Shabbos Daf Mem Aleph, was we continued a similar story with Reb Zera, that he says, Chazite le says, I saw Rebavo, which the previous time we're speaking about, the thing that we were speaking about regarding bathing. We saw him in the bathtub. He wasn't sure did he have his feet up or not, which was he swimming or not. Here also he says, I saw him, and also again, lo yadan, I don't know. What was his question? He says also regarding bathing, says, I wasn't sure if he touches male member. Touch a male member? That brings a mabul oil. You're not supposed to. It arouses a person. No, maybe yes, because it's kibbei leshes. Just like the troops that there's no problem about yain nesech because of the fear of war. So too here, he has the fear of the river, and therefore it's not going to bring to illicit thoughts, and therefore it would be permitted possibly that he could touch it, and therefore that was his doubt. But wait a second, forget about touching, how could he even put his hands and cover up? Isn't that kaifer in the bris of Avram Avinu? You're not supposed to cover over the bris? On that he said, no, that's only when you're going down to the river, where there's no tznius over there. Here he was coming up from the river, and therefore then there is another element of tznius, of modesty, and therefore maybe that would be permitted, as we find that with different Amiram had different customs in the bathhouse. They would bend over, some would stand straight up, some would depend on going down and going up, again because of these two different contradicting elements. One that you shouldn't be covered with social marino, and the other one is, but there's still an element of tznius, of modesty. And then we had different teachings of this story, and regarding the brisa, regarding different halachas that are relevant to eating and to bathing, regarding that you should eat and drink, and that you should, when you go to the bathhouse, take in the hot, so you let out the heat inside of you. Many different teachings that were taught regarding those elements. They went to the next Mishnah, two different types of vessels. One was a mulyar, and one was antichi. Now, interestingly, although very similar, but both of them, if you shovel out the coals from before Shabbos, the mulyar you're allowed to drink from at Shabbos, and the antichi you're not allowed to drink. Now, what's the mulyar? So the mulyar we said is that you have water in the inside, and you have the coals on the outside. So it's not so hot. When you shovel out the coals, so it's going to maintain the heat, so it's good warm water on Shabbos, but it's not going to be moist of hevel. So they were like similar to the halacha we said regarding hatmana. Therefore, that's going to be permitted to then drink that water on Shabbos. But antichi is different. What's antichi? Either it's beikiri, which beikiri is actually looks similar to the mulyar, but actually it's the hottest one of them all, because it has thick walls and it's heated all week, and therefore it has a lot of heat, and therefore that's the one for sure, according to everyone, for antichi that's going to be forbidden, because it's moist of hevel. It's going to be moist of hevel on Shabbos, so therefore it's going to be forbidden. Another interpretation, which we actually brought a brisa that says even like this one is going to be us, is beidudi, which is a double bottom, which here you have all these coals, and therefore even if you shovel it out, and it's not as hot, but it's actually, even though it's similar to the mulyar, but since it ultimately is well insulated, so therefore even if you take it out, it's going to be ma'aser hevel, and therefore that's going to be us. That's antichi. We went to the next Mishnah, which said the enigmatic words of hamechim shepinahu, the kettle that was emptied out. So he said, you're allowed to put in cold water only if it's going to warm it up, but not the amount of large quantity. That's forbidden because that's lachamim. That's going to heat it up, which that's forbidden. Now, we had a machlek exactly what is this case of a hamechim shepinahu? One interpretation says is that you took off the kettle and you removed from it the hot waters. So you emptied it out. That's the case of a mechem shepino. You emptied it out. Now, that's what the halacha is saying, that only a lot of water, because that's going to only warm it up. But a lot of water, but a little water would be a problem, because that would be bishul. So a little is a problem about bishul. Now, when you add a lot of water, there's no problem bishul, but there's a different problem of mitzaref, which is Maka bepatish. So that says the Gemara, it's going like Reb Shimon, who says, since it's not intended, so it's going to be mutter. But Abai doesn't like that, because it says the words hamechim shepinahu doesn't sound like that you emptied from it, but you emptied it. You took it off the fire. So he says a different interpretation. He says, no, you took itself off of the fire, the kettle. But you do have hot water inside of it. That's what we're saying. You're allowed to add a lot of cold water into into that hot water, because that's only going to warm it up. It's not going to cook it. But actually, if you actually took out the hot water from it, it would be usser. Why would it be usser? Because then, when there's water inside of it, when there's hot water, you can't do tziriv. You have to solidify it only when you empty it out and there's no water inside. Then you put in cold water, that's mitzarefet. But if there is some water, it would be usser, because it's going like Rabbi Yehuda, who he says that to be mitzarefet, it's going to be usser, because even though it's a davar she'ein miskaven, he holds a davar she'ein miskaven is going to be usser. And then we had a similar discussion, machlekes between Rav and Shmuel, which was similar regarding along these lines. If you hold like like Reb Shimon or like Rabbi Yehuda, was a similar type of machlekes, and then just we amended the opinion of Rav, where originally we thought it was one way, we ultimately said the other way. Thank you to any time for hosting us.